So this is going to be, I think, the first talk of the research talk. The title denotes this is going to be like more like an explanation of how a breach happened in a so-called organization and how we can learn from the mistake they had faced and use that to improve our defenses. It's more like a Who Am I page, like a About Us page. I don't think that is relevant here. This like I'm working in the offensive security industry for the past 15 years, and yeah, that's it. So about breaches. So we are hearing the terms breach, ransomware attack, and all those fancy things, all those buzzwords, at least once in our LinkedIn feeds, right? So we are hearing a lot of news about the breaches and attacks which are happening in different set of organization, government organization, from a people perspective, all those kind of breaches and attacks. So our first point is going to be the lost signing key, a breach story from our beloved Microsoft. I think some of you might have heard about the incident happened with Microsoft, right? So I would like to just just explain or showcase what happened with Microsoft, like how that attack happened, and then how we can learn from that mistakes and use certain area or within offensive security to improve, assess our defense posture and improve our defense posture. So that is going to be the gist of it. So I think our friendly neighborhood neighbor, right? So they are not only targeting India, but also the other countries as well, especially the US and Europe, those kind of targets. So like Microsoft has published an article related to a breach happened with Microsoft, like a Chinese origin threat actor called Storm 0558. They had infiltrated Microsoft and did some damage there. So that was the news. And I think before many organizations, they were not into disclosing the breaches happened in there. They kind of, hide it internally. So nowadays, due to the privacy and compliance laws and the government obligation, they have to disclose it, right? And take responsibility for that breach or incident happened within. I think that is the only reason many companies are disclosing the breaches happening within the organization, right? So basically, the diagram, I did not create this. Someone from the research community did that. So this is basically what happened with Microsoft. So I will start from the left end. Like there was a MSA signing key. So MSA signing key is basically assigned to a certain customer. Let's say Microsoft has different set of customers. I got a quick question before that. So how many of you guys are using Microsoft for your corporate email? Okay, that was not a surprise, yeah. So every customer will be assigned their own MSA signing key. Using that key, we can get into that segment, that tenant, and carry out the necessary activities, right? So here what happened is like Microsoft, there was a bug in the bug reduction process. Then they kind of dumped that secret key within. Let's say, the forensics or threat handling people know, right? So usually when we when we dump a system memory, we get everything along with the secret keys, passwords, the data within there, everything, right? So like that, they dumped an MSA key accidentally, and it was moved to a debugging environment. And then, so usually Microsoft claims they have certain scanning process in place which will look for secret keys and passwords in the dump files. But unfortunately, it was not able to find the so mentioned security key within the dump file, their scanning process. Then it was moved to the debugging environment. From there, we can see so this is the most important point here. Point number 3. Sometime after 2021, it was not disclosed yet. They did not reveal. I'm sure that they do not know. They were not able to track it down. Unknown infection vector. Someone got the threat actor Storm 0558. They got access to the internal machine, They did not mention how it happened. They did not know what was the access vector, initial access vector, all those kind of things. Then they got access to internal machine. From there, they were able to laterally move into engineer's account, basically developer's account, right? So I mean, if you are into a team segment, you know that when you laterally move, if you land on a developer's machine, then that is kind of like you get a lot of, that's a treasure, right? You get a lot of information from there, source code, then AWS secret keys, right? All the stuff from there. So basically that engineer account has had access to the debugging environment where our dump files are stored, right? So from there, the attacker is kind of extracted that MSA key and used that, like the 0.6 here. So used that, they were able to forge additional tokens, and they were able to access the Microsoft accounts of other organizations. So it was claimed to be like, it was not only a couple of organizations, also many government entities were affected. So like, just imagine like an attacker, they did not attack you or your organization. They are attacking the big company, which we are all trusting, and from there, you are accessing all of your sensitive emails, right? That is fun, right? So what could you do about that? Would you try to secure Microsoft, or would you take precautionary measures from your end? So that's kind of, again, a tricky question. So using that, they were able to access Outlook.com and obviously Outlook Exchange Web or Outlook Web application. From there, they were able to access all those emails from 25 plus different companies, including government organization. Then using that same key, the MSA key, they were able to renew the access tokens every time to access different set of organization than their corporate email addresses. So this kind of feels like a story. And when you, so usually when an attack happens, what we do, we kind of thinking about recreating that attack scenario and perform it from our end. So that same process happening at every industry, let's say application security, they have QA testing, security testing, all those kind of things are there. Even at defense, every industry has that kind of recreation of certain security incident and try to understand what is happening in there. But here, the threat actor were a sophisticated threat actor with very complex TTPs, and basically it was very complex. So from here, as I mentioned earlier, they gained access to many organizational email accounts. They just mentioned 25 plus customers, but they did not name anyone, at least officially. And they got including government organizations, that is one thing. And they kind of forged tokens to access Azure AD online. And Microsoft, they mentioned that I was limited to the OWA only, but they were not able to laterally move into any other sensitive system within Microsoft. So it was their confirmation, but I'm not sure how deep we can believe that. This one. Okay, so basically the point here is evolving threat tactics. So before a couple of years ago, so what we have seen is we have seen a couple of nation-state sponsored threat tactics using cracked versions of Cobalt Strike or open source C2 frameworks to launch target attacks against government organizations, companies, people, right? It was basically very basic stuff. Then they kind of moved into propagation of malware, very basic malware, I think 2020, 22, 21, sorry, 2010, 12, 15, malware spreading via USB, then drive-by downloads, all those kind of things, right? So nowadays, I took 2 days to understand what happened behind the Microsoft attack. To read their technical explanation and understand what happened behind there and what was the technical, maybe 0 days or technical path TTPs which they had used to, achieve this kind of deep infiltration. So again, these adversaries or threat actors, they are very well, they are resourceful, they have huge funding, and they're getting evolved day by day. Because we know that Microsoft even have a bug bounty, right? So they are actually offering money to people who can find security issues within the system and get it fixed. But at the same time, they are also making the dumb mistakes, which will lead to breach level incidents. So then one more point to notice that these are extremely hard to detect at the early stage, because initial access, I think the blue team guys know, just to differentiate between the legitimate activities happening in a user laptop or malicious activities. Sometimes hundreds or thousands of false positives and try to figure out what was the actual malicious intent there. So that kind of thing. So a simple question. Has your organization faced a breach or ransomware attack during your tenure there? You don't have to answer that. So you don't have to raise your hands. I don't want to tell on people, right? So that was a question. We have many people. I'm also not telling that I have seen breaches. No, I did not. So we have seen many breaches and things happening at different organizations. But it's like what can I say? It's like something funny, because if it is happening in your home, it is not fun. But it is happening at Microsoft, then it is fun. We can make slides and talk about it, right? But when it comes into your organization, that's a whole different story altogether. So yeah, again, no, you don't have to be honest. Okay, so again, coming back to the cybersecurity investment perspective, so we have seen organizations are spending more and more money in the last previous years on increasing their security posture, right? So before it was only semantic AV. I mean, from my personal experience, then that moved to EDR, then SOC. So right now, if you are checking a corporate employee's laptop, you will find at least 15 to 20 different agents running there. You'll be having antivirus, that is the first line of defense. Then you will have EDR, the second line of defense. Then you have EPMs, right? You have web proxies, right? Then you have if your organization is tricky enough, then they will have some kind of monitoring tool as well. They just try to figure out you're working from home or you're working from some other country or that kind of stuff. Believe me, that is there. And the perimeter security products, many products are there. And since the evolution of AI, many security companies are also claiming that their product has AI. My AI can detect these attacks for you, but I don't know, maybe. So again, acquiring that is important, acquiring resources, talent, and retaining them. It's you hired someone for a certain, compared to the market, you certain amount of salary, and after 6 months, that guy is moving to a different different company, which is your competition, right? So it happens. So, but in order to retain good talent, you'll have to take a step ahead, right? So that is again a tricky part. So these are all coming under the cybersecurity investment. But my question is how would you measure how good is your cybersecurity posture? So many security vendors, they are coining different terms, like attack surface discovery, how to understand the score of your attack surface to the internet, exposed to the internet. Many security vendors, they are coming up with new fancy names, but when we need something actionable, we need to combine a couple of things to make others understand, okay, this is our actual security posture. For example, from a recon perspective, many recon attack surface discovery companies are out there. They will scan your exposed assets to the internet. They will come up with a score, right? So that kind of stuff is there. The same thing is they are doing for internal infrastructure as well, cloud as well. But when you try to understand what is your organization's overall security posture, everything comes together. So application security, on the application front, what is your exposure? On the cloud, on the internal infrastructure, on the employee perspective, how well trained are your employees? So because all these companies are doing the phishing simulations at least twice in a month, right? But I always click on the phishing simulation, and they will send me to the training. Okay, just go there and. But I do the phishing simulation for the company. I'm a red teamer. No, we don't care. Just go there and add the phishing simulation class. Yeah, that's totally different story. So. So here, coming back to assessing cybersecurity investment, again, that is a very tricky area because you are spending too much fund, too much budget on procuring all these security products, but you don't know how well they are performing, right? So that is a tricky area in there. And coming back to the threat actor, so we have seen how sophisticated or how complex that threat actor originated from our friendly neighborhood, neighbor. So how would you fight against sophisticated threat actor? So we have vulnerability management process in place, like try to figure out the new vulnerability 0 days, try to patch them. Then the IT team will say that we'll need 30 days to patch these systems. Otherwise, the production will go down. And you will say that, okay, then you can take 25 days. Okay, get it done within 25 days. Then by the time, you patch the vulnerability, it will be too late. And vulnerabilities are there, I would say many companies and organizations are out there who actually sell 0 days, right? If a sophisticated threat actor is there, who are very well funded, they can obviously go there and buy a 0 day. Right? So the question we really should be asking, what is your breach readiness condition? So we know what is DEFCON, right? That is like defense readiness condition. So that's how they named the DEFCON hacking conference. So it's like a breach readiness condition. So you could ask if you are from a higher management, or if you are a client, or if you are whatever your position may be. So you could ask, what is the organization's breach readiness condition? It is obvious that any organization, they are not immune to breaches, right? It could be Microsoft, it could be any other, I'm not timing, any other big company. It is inevitable, right? It could happen, right? So we could just come up with a question, a $1 billion question what is your breach readiness condition? Is something happening in your organization? How would you defend against it? So it has happened, right? How would you defend against it? How would you recover? From all perspective, you'll have to talk about technical perspective, you'll have to talk about management perspective, right? All these, perspectives will be there because the management, they don't know, if you're talking about them, about the threat actor name, then a couple of 0-day names and CV numbers, they don't care, right? What they want to know is how this is going to affect my company, my security posture, my clients. So that is the question the higher level people should ask. But on the technical side, they should be focusing on the technical aspect. Okay? So next time you could just ask your client or just ask your security team, dude, what is my breach readiness condition? Right? If something happens in my organization, if a ransomware is coming in, if another friendly neighborhood, friendly neighbor is coming in, then what can we do? So this has happened with Microsoft. Recently something happened with C0c0n and MGM, right? Then we have seen MOVIT, right? Clop ransomware gang. We are seeing all these incidents. Then what is my breach readiness condition? So this is the question we should be asking to ourselves and to the security teams. Okay, obviously I will pitch offensive security operation because I am from the offensive security background. So this is very important because most of the organizations are having internal pen testing teams, vulnerability management teams, application security teams. Nowadays they have also started adversary emulations or purple team, right? So many, someone asked me a question yesterday. So they are coming from an application security background and they asked me how it is relevant to application security because we are a product-based company and this is not relevant. Adversary simulation or any other offensive security operations, not relevant. But I told them, application security is one thing. At the same time, we could try to defend things. For example, so recently there was an OGNL vulnerability, right? Which could affect system. Basically an attacker could execute remote code, right? So that was there. It was, just imagine, it was a 0 day, and you have seen from threat intel portals that threat actors are using that to gain access into different organizations. But you have no idea about it. All you know is it is going to attack a certain application component which is open source, right? But what you could do is you could try to defend against it. You could just try to inform your SOC and you could try to simulate a set of activities related to the certain code block which is existing. Let's say a couple of previous vulnerabilities are there, right? You could just create a compiled list of them. You could try to exploit that in your internet-facing web application and try to check from the blue team okay, how many of these attacks are actually getting logged by our system, right? By doing that, you could understand, like at the time an actual zero-day hits, which is using the same code block or same open source component, at least you get to understand, right? Someone is trying to execute something. So that's how usually researchers get the POC codes from the sponsored threat actors. Adversary emulation and simulation, I the next talk. Because adversary emulation and adversary simulation or purple teaming, they are getting a good traction nowadays. So I'll just, just to set the definitions right. So emulation is basically like impersonating a threat actor. Let's say we have a threat actor identified by organizations like MITRE or any other research group. They'll be naming them, right? APT29, Russian threat actors. Then there was something fun happened. So last month we were organizing a small village at DEF CON. We were actually doing a CTF along with, there was basically a country was there. All these people are attacking that country in order to gain flags, something like that. Basically cyber war simulation. So I was telling one guy, okay, there are threat tactics originating from China, Russia, all those kind of things. That guy was like, telling me to my face, we are also things coming from India. This is called Tiger. You should not miss that. I said, okay, I deserve that because India is also into this field big time, right? Okay, emulation is basically trying to impersonate the activities performed by a well-known threat actor. Like, we get a big list of threat actors and the researchers identify the attack vectors or TTP used by these threat actors, the tooling behind the threat actors, and they will be creating a list. So based on that, we could just try to emulate these activities in our environment. Let's say if you are into fintech, a threat actor is out there, maybe Fin6, Fin7. Threat actor is out there, they are attacking the companies in the same segment. So your threat intelligence team is telling that, okay, there is a new threat actor, they're targeting fintech companies. So we have identified the tactics and tooling used by these threat actors. Okay, we can just collect these TTPs and we could try to emulate these activities in our environment, identify the gaps in our system, and by the time the actual adversary hits you, at least you could fight against them. So that's why we have this image in there, because emulation is basically like you are fighting with your sparring partner. So when you get your dojo, you don't get to knock out the other guy. You need to start from the basic, right? You need to strengthen your body, then you need to learn each attack tactic, like punching, kicking. Then they will make you create a full kata, basically like a set of movements that is basically an attack scenario. Then they will assign your partner to spar, right? Try to understand, okay, if he is throwing a punch, you know how to defend against it. But the tournament, that is basically adversary simulation, because that guy is coming from an entirely different place. You don't know what he is going to do to you, right? So he is attacking you in a heavy manner. You could just defend against him. At the same time, you can also attack him, right? That is a street fight, more like a street fight. Street fight, you don't know, they don't play with the rules, right? So simulation is basically more like red teaming, because red teaming, I believe red teaming is more like became a diluted thing in the market. Because even if you, from both sides, if you are selling a service or if you are delivering a service or buying a service, that time has diluted a little bit more, compared to the other segment. So simulation is basically performing a real life attack. This is not like we are not picking only one threat group. Maybe we will compile a list of threat actors together, extract their TTPs, and attack it, use it against a organization. Basically more like a red teaming. Okay, then purple team, so here we have adversary emulation or simulation. Basically, these two activities could be performed by your offensive security team, or the so-called offensive guys or teammates. You don't, you just need to, simulation people, usually we don't inform the blue team, because this is street fight. We will not tell your opponent, okay, I am going to hit you. No, that is street fight. Emulation, maybe you could inform your blue team, because otherwise they will be raising incidents based on that activity. They will actually raise a ticket that, okay, this threat actor is attacking us. So we need to avoid that, right? So that's why for emulation, we'll have to inform the defenders. Simulation, no, maybe the management. Purple teaming, basically everyone sits together. We need everyone on the same page. So basically, people say that we need to play well with with the other companies. You need to work together. But I have never seen such thing in my experience. I mean, we could say that, but people usually don't play well. The ego thing is there, then different team kind of thing is there, internal politics will be there. But sometimes you'll have to work together for the sake of, for the goodwill for your company, right? So that is a must thing. You need to do that. So purple team basically will be doing like emulation or simulation, but we compile a list of activities we are going to perform, share with the blue teammates. Then we get to understand, like, how many of these activities go detected by the blue team, and how did they perform against that. It was not only against the technical aspect, also about like tabletop kind of thing. Let's say how well the manager respond to such attack. On day one, you do not call your CISO. Okay, we got initial access. Okay, next day, sir, I will call you back. The next day, sir, we got the threat actor was using Cobalt. Okay, then I will call you back after 5 minutes. No, there needs to be an order of things, right? So everyone needs to work together based on a process. So this is another concept like threat-informed defense. That is basically threat intel-powered breach and attack simulation or adversary simulation. For example, we know that threat actors out there, they are hitting everyone, or they are hitting a certain industry. We need to have a proper threat. I'm not talking about the paid commercial threat intel feeds. I'm talking about having an actual threat intel team, right? Because, for example, let's say new exploit code is there. There is actually a certain time gap between an exploit being published and these security vendors are picking it up, integrating that into their security tooling, right? So you need to actually have a security threat intel team. Not talking about the commercial threat feeds, which are coming in in a huge numbers. So this is another concept from MITRE ATT&CK, threat-informed defense cycle. That is basically threat intel-powered attack emulation and increasing the defense. This kind of basic thing, like how easy it is to start adversary emulation within your organization. There are many commercial tools like Attack IQ, SafeBreach, all these tools are there. If you have enough budget to spend, then you can go for that. Before that, you could start with a couple of open source products. Like this is for emulation, but simulation is much easy. You just need to trust your offensive security team. They can build it for you, right? Because you have all these fancy equipments around. You need someone to break them, right? So that you get to understand how well they are performing. So that is my point here. And again, for the open source fanboys, this is going to be a free attack emulation library from MITRE Ingenuity. You have free, you don't have to spend anything. You can just rely on the power of open source community and use it in your environment. Because they have tens, maybe 20, 25 different attack emulation plan based on threat tactics. But I think the small thing I notice about the companies based in US, they usually target the threat tactics targeting against that segment. For India, we need to come up with something because India has a couple of good neighbors, right? We need to come up with TTP. We need to extract TTPs from such threat tactics and create emulation plan for our government organizations, our country, so on and so, right? But this is relevant for corporations because most of our companies are based out of US or Europe. Then we'll be creating, some awesome guys are creating companies in here and expanding that to US market, something like that. But again, that geographical thing that is actually real based on threat tactics. This is a nice purple team exercise framework created by George Oshelius. Okay, to the conclusion. So this is a very first thing, notable thing, because since I noticed that in the Microsoft thing, the people, they don't know how the initial access happened. That is a huge concern. Your company got attacked, you got breached, but you don't know how it happened, right? So just think about it. So this is the very first thing we need to, like I said, breaches are inevitable. It will happen, but at least we need to learn from that. At least we need to deploy the tooling for understanding what they did and what we could learn from that, and in the future how we could defend that, right? So that points needs to be, okay, these are like, basically the things I think I covered, like, if you are doing it in your organization. And okay, we are having a small village at the end of this hallway. It's called Adversary Village. We have a couple of hands-on activities in there. We have not panel discussion, we have a couple of workshops happening in there, a CTF and a couple of hands-on activities. We have a game called Adversary Adventure Game that is more like a tabletop. So for example, you know the choose your own adventure type games, right? Because if you are a fan of Bear Grylls, he recently started something in Netflix. Like, I forgot the show's name, but he will technically ask you, should I rappel down from the helicopter or should I jump to the water? Based on your choices, he will do that action. Something like that, we created more like a tabletop game in there. You can pose as an attacker and we will give you questions, like more like a story mode, choose your own adventure type of thing. You can choose the game as an attacker, then like what would you do after gaining access, those kind of things. If you are making the right set of choices, then you will win, otherwise like, And we also have a small lock picking area in there, like more like a physical security simulation, just you would like to, if you would like to check it out. Yeah, thank you everyone, thank you for your time.